If I had to sell my house, I'd have a really hard time doing it.
A lot of times the wife is more motivated because they've got more of that emotional drive.
It can be really sad to think about having to sell your house.
A buyer's smarter than that. I think a buyer can sit there and say, yeah, like this looks like a place where our family can be happy too, honey.
That what you currently have served its purpose. It got you everything that you needed. It got you from where you were to where you are, but now you need something else for the next phase of your life.
So, welcome back to the Moving Sucks podcast.
It's time to fix that.
It's time we fix that. You're going to one day get our tagline right.
Yeah.
You can look at the logo in the
I just did.
corner, right?
I spun it a little bit. Right? Yeah.
So,
right, because we are going to fix that. We're going to fix that. We're going to fix it right now. So with this topic, Seth and I are just on before we hit record, and realized this is going to be a good one because he was like, oh, what's like the big deal? Like, is this for people who have already decided they're going to move? And I'm like, you know what? No, it's for people like me that if I had to sell my house, I'd have a really hard time doing it because I am very sentimental and emotionally connected to my house. And I know I'm not the only one. And you like your house, but you can see things from an equitable perspective and can see forward and see future and can kind of put that above some others. I can't. And again, I know I'm not the only one. So I feel like this is like an overlooked aspect to the whole like home buying and selling process, especially because we work in real estate all day, every day. It's easy for us to kind of see this as just like a natural progression of things. But to the consumer and to the average person, I mean, it can be really sad to think about having to sell your house. And I mean, I know I can speak personally of like, this is the house I bought as like, I did it. I bought this house myself, and it was a really big achievement and milestone. I brought my son home from the hospital to this house. Mm-hmm. I, made certain parts of this house my own, and there's little quirks in it. I have my measuring wall for Jackson. Like, there's a lot to it. If I had to sell it, I'd probably cry a lot. And I don't know. And I'm honestly, the sadness and fear of like letting go of it would probably hold me back from selling. Okay. And I'm in real estate.
Yeah.
So, there are ways though to detach. It's one of those, I say this all the time and you know firsthand, do as I say, not as I do. Yeah. Don't ask me how old my air filters are. Just listen to me when I say change them out. But same with this, like I understand it can be really, really hard to have to separate from, the home you made memories in and all the benchmarks that you had in it. But how do you do that and be able to navigate through that emotional connection to things and focus on where you're going next and how to get there? Because this is the first big piece to work through, and you're not even going to get to the part 2 or really part 3 where you get to the strategic moves.
Yeah. Well, we talk a lot about on this podcast about the financial and the logistical, like how do you actually do it? Mm-hmm. And but there's a lot of emotion tied up in housing, man. I mean,
exactly with what you just said. We talk about the logistical and the strategical, but we don't talk about the emotional.
Yeah, and I mean, people make decisions emotionally. They do not make sales, and people who make these big moves, do so using the emotional part of their brain and not. People will say, oh, it's too much. Like, so a simple sales thing is like, Bob tries to sell Rick a widget. Rick says it's too expensive. It's actually not too expensive. I mean, it might structurally be too expensive financially, but really what he's worried about is it being too expensive, him going home, his wife asking him how much he paid for it, and then either being told he's a fool or getting mad, or she gets mad at him. So that's like that. So almost every sale that you come across, you can trace it back actually to like a more visceral emotional response. So I was excited about this topic because Jenna is an emotional creature, and certainly
don't blow my cover.
the more emotional of the two of us. I'm kind of the more straight-laced, logical person, and Jen is our emotional spirit animal of the podcast. So I was excited to talk about this. Let's unpack this a little bit. Do you want to use an example of somebody we used, or we helped, or how would you like to start this off?
Well, I mean, there's kind of 4 parts to this. It's, why does selling the home feel so personal? I know we also had an episode of like our message to men. I think that's actually what we called it. But that's what we called it. This is kind of like message to women. But the message to men is consider these things that your woman is very likely thinking. And if there's, the reason people move is because there's a pain point. And, one of the two of you is probably feeling the pain more than the other. But if the other is still being very kind of like hesitant and resisting the move, and let's say that it's your wife, girlfriend, or whoever, your counterpart, understand and listen to me. Come here and listen to what I'm saying when I tell you. Ask her questions or ask him questions. Ask whoever it is the resistance is, where it's coming from. Because if it is emotional, this is where you need to listen up. And then once that piece is figured out, then we're going to get into part 2, part 3, and part 4, which is how to emotionally prepare for the sale, smart and strategic moves to sell, and then focusing on what's next. But you can't focus on what's next unless you got both people in the right mindset to actually move. So we pretty much already talked about, why it feels personal. It goes without saying, memories, comfortability, familiarity. I mean, I can go on and on. It's also daunting to think of having to fix your baseboards and repaint, and like sounds like a logistical nightmare, but also like, oh, if we are going to talk about a client, it's not that it was holding them back from selling, but I had sold a house one time for my old physics teacher. Love them dearly. And I was over their house for a block party one day that I was invited to. And I had noticed during one of the walkthroughs that I had at their house before we had gotten ready to list that they had a measuring wall. But it wasn't like, you can't just like, I mean, you could rip it out and take it with you, but like, not really. I wouldn't advise it as a professional. And I saw that, and it had both their kids' measurements from when they were very young up until currently. I snuck into the house during the block party when nobody was in there. It took a while. He was chatting with somebody forever, but I took a panoramic picture of the wall sideways. If anybody needs to know how to do it, I can like post a tutorial or something. I think it was like 2 panoramic pictures to get a long view of it. And then I ordered a canvas wrap of it to give them as a closing gift. So it was like try to get it the same size. I did everything I could to try to replicate it, but blow it up so that they still had it for their next home. It turned out pretty good, and there were tears at settlement that they still got to move with their measurement wall. So if there are those like personal touches to the house, like let us know what those are. We care about, having this be an enjoyable journey. Like as our podcast says, moving sucks. We're here to fix that. And we want to make it as easy as possible for you when it's not going to be an easy process necessarily. Yeah. So that's one way that you can emotionally prepare is gather all the things that are tying you to it. Let us know what those are and let's address them. Another one, and actually ChatGPT told me this one and I really like it. And I'm going to actually start recommending this to people. It is write a letter to your house.
I have never heard of that.
Me either, but when I think about it psychologically, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so let's unpack that because I'm still unclear.
Okay, so, as a way to process thoughts, feelings, emotions, a lot of times like journaling helps with this. I kind of see it as a version of journaling. It's kind of like if you're trying to, rid somebody out of your life and accept that they are no longer going to be part of your current journey and leaving them in the past to move forward. I've done it. It is help. It is a form of closure. It's not that it's like meant to obviously like give it to a person, but it's meant to get it out of here onto paper and then just behind you. It's kind of similar to a house, but just kind of personifying a house where you get to write this little love letter to your house. Thank it for everything it was able to provide to you, all the memories that it gave you, write everything out, and then just love letter to your house.
And what do you do with that letter?
Have it, keep it, bury it. Burying it would actually probably be pretty neat, but
I've heard of, and I really, I don't know why I didn't do it on my addition. I wish I had put like a time capsule and under the floorboards and like, it was right in the middle of the pandemic. I probably, maybe, putting stuff from the kids and some pictures and stuff in there, and somebody in 2065 will come in here and rip this whole place apart and they would find it. It's pretty cool. I've heard of that. I've seen people like hide things, bury things in the backyard.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Doing a
I
castle would
think
be
that's
pretty
a
neat.
cool idea. What's that?
Yeah, doing a castle would be pretty neat. And even
Yeah, like doing a
if
time capsule.
if the kids are having a hard time with moving, because I'm sure, I mean, that's fortunately something I've had to do, but I can imagine the home they've only ever known, and getting them prepared for that. I think it'd probably be like a little easier to get a kid excited though about like the new place they're going and it's like new and exciting. But if, for some reason they're not in that mode, doing something fun and exciting like that. And also that's what you can contribute to it. So they can put like, their favorite thing from the house or something they want to see in 30 years. So, hopefully there's a cool person living in the house in, 30, 35 years. You get to knock up and say, hey, this was actually my first house. And I like put a little capsule out back. Do you mind if I get it? If somebody came to my house and said that, my house isn't old enough to have that yet, but I'd be like, how can I help?
It's pretty old, man. It's a 28-year-old house.
Yeah.
That's a kid who buried that shit when he was 15 is now,
Yeah, it would have been new construction. Either way, it's not like I'm living in some house that was built in like the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
But either way, I'd be like, yeah, I think that would be really awesome. And actually, I'm curious to see what's in it too. So just doing something fun like that. I said, you and I in the daily throes of just real estate, we kind of, at least I can speak for myself, this does tend to kind of like get pushed to the back because we do think so strategically and just methodically about steps and processes. But this is your home. And you really made some real memories, and let's find ways to be able to part with those because, I mean, you need more space. You need to go to a different district. Like you need to move for work, whatever your reasons are.
Hey, let's try this one on for size. Literally last night, I was yelled at. I went into a listing appointment with a family, 4 generations, the sellers, 96 and 94. David, the 96-year-old, built the house with his bare hands in 1958. And they knew that my showing up meant that the house was going to be sold soon. And she was so upset. She was crying. And she was really angry. And, she says, you're just going to sell this thing for whatever you can get for it, blah, blah, blah. And, the daughter excuse me and her husband out of the room or whatever and let her regroup her thoughts. But in the end, I was like literally on my knee next to her and like holding her hand. And I said, I'm going to do the absolute best I can to get you as much money for this house as possible and honor the memories that you the family you raised here. And she started crying.
Yeah.
And then the whole family started crying. And, so like that was a very cute thing. I was ready for it. I was telling somebody, I was like, I think I'm going into like a pretty hostile situation, but she wasn't mad at me. She was just so upset because there's also when you're talking to older sellers, like there's a sense of mortality involved. It's like, this is like, I'm never going to own a home again. And like, this is it. Like, I know that the money from this house is going to pay for me to go like live in some kind of retirement community. And that's like a hard thing too. So
even if it's not somebody that's like that far down the line, I mean, we just sold a house. It was for the buyer. We were representing the buyer. But when I was speaking to a listing agent before we ever even put out the offer, I asked her, what is the backstory here? Because I had seen that the house was purchased really only within less than 5 years ago, which is not a very long time ago in this day and age. And I was like, since COVID times, but I had asked like, so I see when she bought the house, I know the rate I know that she's going to be paying more wherever she's going to be going next. Like, why is she selling? And she told me like, she said this house, she thought she was going to have this forever. This would be her forever house. She took so much pride in it there was going to be nothing to get her out of here. But then she met a man and fell in love. I was like, that'll do it. But you could even tell when we were doing our final walkthrough before settlement, she left a note to the new buyers. And this is not to be confused with the, note to the house that you write for yourself. But the seller also wrote a letter to the new buyers, addressed them by name, and just giving them all of the information on it, who the neighbors are, told them about them and what to go to them for, how long they've been there. And you can just tell like how much she did love the house. And I'm sure it was difficult, but I'm sure that felt really good for her to write. And it made me feel really happy. I was able to text the agent on my way to settlement and say, I really want the seller to know that this is going into the best hands possible. And she probably couldn't have picked a better person to take the house because they're going to take care of it the same way that your seller did. And it's a nice feel good moment.
Yeah, I think I've talked about my experience in the house I grew up in on this podcast before, and it was quick rundown. I got licensed 10 years ago, and when I first got started, I was sending out handwritten notes. I actually sent it at the time. The house that I grew up in was for sale and had just sold. And I just wrote to the new owners being like, I just want to let you know I'm in real estate. And like one of the reasons that I love like housing and architecture is because of that house. Like, congrats on the house. Didn't hear from them for 9 years. It sold again in 2021. And then I finally got a call from a woman named Kate. She was the new owner. And the people I had sent the note to back when I first got started had kept the note and passed it with all the other architects, because it was a very old house. It had all the old Architectural Digest stuff.
That house is really cool too.
Yeah, it's so cool. And the new owner said, like, when we go to sell it, like you're going to list it. So, but she called and said that they had actually kept the note. They just never responded to it.
I hate that.
But that house, like my family still talks about that house, like at like family functions. It is still, my mother like absolutely loves it. My father had a love-hate relationship. It was so expensive to maintain. It was basically like a 6,600 square foot farmhouse that like with a cedar shake roof, totally inefficient, but it was such a cool house.
Well, and also when you decide to have like 12,000 children, you need
to
be able to keep them all.
Yeah, but it was just such a cool house to grow up in. And but even like just people who make memories. Like I remember I brought my kids home to the first, two other houses. I didn't bring them home here. But I will tell you this much. One of those emotional tranches that is going to be opened up, and I think that a lot of sellers are going to start realizing, and it depends on how old your kids were, is COVID. I think I think about COVID all the time. I bought this house like 4 months, or I moved in here 3 months before COVID hit. But that shared experience with a 5 and a 7-year-old, and like they turned our garage into like a play, like into like a kind of like a kid's room.
It's more time than we were ever given to be in our houses.
Be in our house. That's right. And I think a lot of people got to nest or whatever.
Ooh, that's something that I don't think I've ever actually really considered. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think COVID has impacted as far as housing goes, both immediate and long term. That's one I didn't actually consider until now, is emotionally how much that is going to have an impact of how much time has been spent in the home. Now, that could be good and bad, though. That could have also, on the very flip side, made people say, I spend too much time here, and now I realize I can't do this forever.
That can totally cut two ways. So
yeah, I hear that, because I got to spend so much time out back with Jackson. He was 2, and it was awesome. I learned I could be a stay-at-home mom of a 2-year-old. That changed when he turned 3, though. And I said, oh, just kidding. Go away. But also being in my house more, especially now that I can, do my work from home. I learned long-term, if there's another human living in this house, I need to sell it because I need my own freaking office.
Yeah.
I can only work from a desk in my kitchen for so long. So It goes both ways. But again, it is that emotional. It still kind of holds people back.
Yeah, but I mean, and you also get the people who are, they're empty nesters, they're 50s, 60s. They brought their kids, their kids did their prom pictures in the back, and lots of birthday parties. Their parents' last Christmas was in that house. And like, It's very important that if you're hiring an agent, like they have some level of EQ. Like you just come, you bring in and you know me, man. Like, can you picture me last night, like getting on my knee and holding a hand of an old lady, and like kind of not right.
No.
Like I
If I'm
pulled,
being
like,
honest.
yeah, if we're being
You would
honest, but like,
totally take more of a tactical approach to it
we're like,
normally.
yeah, we're going to sell this house.
But
Blah,
think
blah, blah,
of
you
how
know?
much money you can make, and you can spend forever
Uh,
in your really nice retirement home to go die happily and
no, 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 no. I was not a cyborg last night, Jen. I promise you. No, but the energy that I channeled was my father.
Mhm.
We all had to sit with my father before he moved to an assisted community, and told him, who was the patriarch of our house, that he couldn't live in his house anymore.
Mhm.
And like, it is a highly emotional thing, and a lot of kids don't know how to navigate it. So that's why an agent can potentially do that as a kind of an independent person.
Just a mediator, even.
Yeah, but like mediation still is in that like logic, like reason, like kind of area. But and a good agent really should at least understand the dynamics, but
Mhm.
also be able to weigh in and they able to handle the situation. Because like I just looked around the room last night, and like nobody knew what the hell to do, and she's 94 and she was pissed and upset, and even though everyone was expecting it, it's never easy. But there was no comfort that her family could give. The only person who could give her comfort was the agent, who was going to be the one who was actually going to be like the catalyst to sell the house that she loved, and so there's a lot of great agents out there who can just do the process, and they're great negotiators and they can talk to their counterparts and all that. But like actually understanding a client,
Mhm.
whether it's a 35-year-old couple who brought their first kid, their kids home to that house, or a 94-year-old who's like, knows that like it's kind of like everything's kind of winding down,
Yeah.
it's a good this episode's a great counterpart to the one we talked about with men, because men are much more logically like, hey, do the numbers make sense?
Mhm.
How much are the moving costs? Like, who's going to pack this place up? Like, they think much more logically generally. And that's why most women, when you walk into a listing appointment, which is the appointment, that sellers say, hey, come over, we want to sell the house. A lot of times the wife is more motivated because they've got more of that emotional drive.
Mhm.
Whereas men, if you're just dealing in logic, men can logically, and going back to the very top of this call, like a sale, if you think about a sale logically, you can find any reason not to purchase, or not to do something. But if you have that emotional thing, it kind of overrides and kind of creates that bigger picture. And
Well,
like,
then it's also too, though, that emotional side can also go both ways. It's just a matter of how much weight you're holding to each one, because I mean, the need to move, there's an emotional side of that too. So, it's like you guys probably had that. I mean, Brian Cannon and Sam Cannon are prime examples of, they needed to get the hell out of there because he tripped over a toy for the last time and was like, we need a bigger house. I'm so sick of this. And, but they did bring their son home to that kind of for the first time. And that's where he was like born, raised. And some people can get stuck there. But that kind of segues we into, part really kind of 3 and 4 of focusing on what's next. So, you've already addressed the emotional side of, and it's pretty much the steps you take before we even get there, or it can happen after we get there, but it's the steps to get you to be able to be ready to pick up the phone and make that phone call to say, we're ready to move. So you've already done all that legwork of, saying goodbye to your home and kind of like detaching yourself from it a little bit so that you can focus on your why. And this is gonna be an ongoing thing though. It's not gonna be like one time you make the call, hey, we're ready to move. We come in, we do talk logistics, we do kind of discover some more about kind of like background, you guys, yada yada. You're gonna have to keep reminding yourself why you're doing it, what you're gonna gain from this next move, from your next home, what that's gonna give you that what you're in right now can't give you, that what you currently have served its purpose. It got you everything that you needed. It got you from where you were to where you are, but now you need something else for the next phase of your life and to solve your problems that you have that even got this conversation to happen in the first place. But that's going to have to be a regular top of mind thing to remind yourself, because otherwise you can easily self-sabotage the sale of your home by just, you could get too emotionally invested into your home where you have unrealistic, stubborn expectations of price. You're going to have to be able to accept that you have your view of your home, and then there's the actual logistical, approach for selling your home, and that we're going to take care of it, but you can't let your emotions be what drive your decision making. So you need to check those before any of this so that you can get to the focusing on what's next and your strategic moves to sell wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's any choice that anyone makes, it's between pain and pleasure. It's like, is the pain of moving worth the pleasure or like the benefit of getting to a new school district, getting an extra bedroom, moving closer to family, whatever. That really is the framework upon which any person makes any decision really at all. You can boil it down to that. So
then there's my cardinal rule that I have that I always end up boiling everything down to if I'm deciding not to do something is, what this is.
I don't know. You have so many cardinal rules, Jen.
No, this one's my number one this one's like my big one is, if the only reason I'm not doing something is because I'm just scared to do it, and I have to do it because it's not a good enough reason.
Yeah.
Considering if it's all safe and responsible.
Yes. Yeah. It's
like, I won't jump off this bridge. I'm scared. That's not what that means.
That's not what that means. It's
but
not a cover-all.
The only reason that you're deciding not to move is just because you're scared of what it's going to take to do it. That's not a good enough reason. And that's when you need to tell yourself, yep, that's not a good reason. Got to do it. And then we'll get you there. So then then when you're mentally there, that's where you have to get to. So then you can start getting your house ready for sale in a smart way, like being able to see it as, okay, this is no longer like my house. This is now the vessel that is going to be available for somebody else. So that's when you get into that mindset of, this might not be the way you'd configure your own house, but this is the way we're going to stage it so that we can get you the most money so we can get you to where you need to go next. So that's when you're going to start being able to accept staging tips to see it as a product that's being sold. Sounds harsh, but that's what it is to give it to life to somebody else. I know that you're not big on depersonalizing, but depersonalize a little bit.
Oh yeah, a little bit. Like, don't put like a whole wall of family photos, but the idea of stripping everything down because it's like the buyer doesn't see themselves, they see you. And I'm like, that is the biggest crock of shit. I'm sorry. I think that people want to see a house that's lived in and enjoyed and people who've made memories in that house. I think a buyer's smarter than that. I think a buyer can sit there and say, yeah, like, this looks like a place where our family can be happy too, honey. Like, I think that's a very normal response to seeing that.
So yeah, you don't have to depersonalize it entirely, but like, don't have your kids' drawings from class on your fridge.
Well, yeah. Okay.
So declutter, depersonalize for the most part. If you want to have your wedding photo up, by all means, that's sweet. That's kind. Also to your comfort level. Some people don't really want to think about what your comfort level is actually. Some people aren't wild over having pictures of their kids up in their home with complete strangers coming through. And so just figuring out what your own boundaries are and what you do and do not want to have people see. Again, that's one of the things that are a little overlooked and I don't think always talked about up front. But yeah. And then after that, it's just focusing on what's next.
Yeah.
So
by the way, I just want to throw this out there. Sometimes the what's next is just a big chunk of cash in your bank.
Very nice. What's next?
Moving in with someone else, or you already have another house, or you're going to just go rent.
Or maybe you're going to pay car off. You're going to pay off debts with it.
Yeah.
Like,
like, it's not always about the next house. A lot of times it's like, well, I'm going to get all this equity out and I'm going to be able to like put my life back together.
And that's a really good thing. So like when you're picking your agent, and that's all part of this process of, once you got your mindset right, you're emotionally prepared, you're doing your strategic moves, and you're hiring the agent who's focusing on all of these things. that's something that an agent should like, and bring that up with them of, talk to us about what you have planned for this money that's going to be coming in. And we'll have that discussion with you, like, with a lender of what you need for your next house, if that's what you're doing, or you need it for rentals. But have the conversation too of like, is it that you do need to pay down debts? Talk with a lender about that. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it's smart, sometimes it's not when you think it might be. That's a discussion for them. But also, like, how much are you getting back, and what can you look forward to with it that you can keep reminding yourself of once, kind of like if you start getting a little sad and once reality starts hitting that, like, oh God, we're not going to be here in a month. It's reality also sets in once you, like, you can be totally mentally prepared, then you accept an offer and then it gets real again. And
Yeah.
then you start packing everything and it gets real again. And then, so when things start getting real again, it's what can you look forward to? Is it that you are going to set aside, like, $10,000 for a really great vacation to take after this? Or are you going to reward yourself with a little treat in the next house or whatever it is, but like make things to look forward to from
Yeah.
this. And it can keep you going.
Yeah. I find that this is a big thing. I find that men need to be they need a lot more assurance on that front. Usually if the entire thing that was the catalyst for this, and the wife is really emotionally tied to an idea of selling, and the husband less, and the husband less so, I have found in transactions, like, I'm having to remind them a little bit more about like what's waiting for them on the other side. I mean, and I've everything from like, hey, to just imagine being able to log into that Capital One account, man, just not having any debt. Like, it's not just about like, with men, it's not about, it is, but it's not as much about like happy memories and this type of thing. Here's a question that I ask when sellers are or anybody's buying or whatever. And I've actually had a lot of agents steal this from me, which is, if I'm standing there with a couple, and the wife's gaga, and she's just like, I just love it. And the husband, and this doesn't actually happen to us very often, just because like we really get a lot of clarity through our questionnaires and everything. Like we get a lot of consensus before we go out and see stuff. But every once in a while, we'd like, maybe we stray into a different school district, or we stray into a different style, or maybe it's a little smaller or bigger. Maybe it has a pool, something there. The husband is like a little just not into the house as much as the wife, and you can just kind of feel it in the room. And in this market, obviously, people have to be decisive, because you have to decide, like, hey, listen, we're going to go like put an offer on this house in the next 24 to 48 hours. And I will ask this question. I will say, listen, Rick, if you were to buy this house and your father-in-law pulled up to it, would you be proud? Would you be proud? Would you feel good about this house being where you put his daughter and his grandkids? Like, and it sounds like very kind of, shithead macho bullshit, but it really is like,
it sounds prideful, but men can be prideful.
Most of them are, and we talked about it in our Message to Men episode, where like men want to be providers, and that is a big emotional thing. And you can really tap into that, whether it's good or bad. It's like, no, you know what? I don't want, my father-in-law having to park on a busy street because there's no parking at this house. Like, or no, like, I don't want like my father-in-law having to sleep on a sofa cushion or a sofa bed because we don't have enough bedrooms. Like, I want 4 bedrooms. And once you do like kind of bring that all to the surface, it can really move a sale. And then, you go sell their house and they feel better about it. They don't mind staying up like the extra 2 hours to pack up all the stuff after everyone's gone to bed. And, so it's a really, I think, an interesting process, because we are selling something that's very nostalgic. It's kind of like a car, like, men in their cars, people can get attached to things, that have like high dollar values. And
even if it's not high dollar values, I mean, we had a listing from a few weeks ago, and we started talking about the logistical, but then we stopped for a second, kind of noticed, and it's an estate, and it's a really, really, really tough situation for this woman to be in, because she's being left with all this stuff, and I'm not going to get into the details of it because we're actively working on this, but it's a lot for her to take on, and a lot of people would not really feel that this is something that she would want to just get rid of it and never look back. But no, we noticed her getting emotional over it and asked a little bit more about that. And she said it is hard because this is the home that was it her uncle or grandfather built himself, and it was like a custom build, and always come back to it. And it is going to be hard to part with, even though there's all of this stuff to have to deal with inside. And
Miscellaneous items, I would say.
that's one way to put it. But still, it's hard to let go of, and it makes making decisions really tough. But I think it can all be brought around to, accepting the fact that there are different feelings that are involved, and both people need to get on the same page and understanding what those are so that steps can be made.
Yeah.
And in a timely manner. So I think kind of wrap it up and kind of a little list of action items for the peeps who are knowing in the back of their mind that they need to sell and that they want to, but are having a hard time getting there is, walk through your home and document your favorite memories. Get them, gather them, accept them, enjoy them. Write your goodbye letter to your house. Make it a person. Write it down, journal, get it out. Begin decluttering, call an agent, start making those action steps, and then start getting your process going and getting excited for what's next and identifying what is next.
Yeah, well, and like I said, we talk a lot about process on this thing. Getting an agent in earlier rather than later. This is not some say you don't never have to call us ever. It's not that. It's just that a real estate agent and other real estate professionals can really help quantify whether the husband's emotional about the numbers, or you have no idea what's on the market out there, where you would even go, or how the hell do we pack this house up after 37 years, that type of thing.
That's what I always say, call us when the thought gets into your head. You don't have to have anything figured out. The thoughts in your head, I want to move, period. You have no idea what to do after that, or have no idea what to do with that thought, or the next thought that comes into your head is, but I don't know even where to start.
Yeah.
Hi, you call us. There isn't such thing as too soon, but there is such thing as too late. Plus, we just eliminate friggin' months of purgatory in your brain. And it's like going to a therapist. You talk it out until you can talk your way through and figure it out. And if there's even just kind of I want to do this, but my partner should want to do this, but doesn't, call us in. I have a client, I always tell, I'm make me the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can be the bad guy when sometimes I said to somebody one time, I said to the partner of the husband, I said separately, she thanked me for saying what I had said in the group chat. And I said, no problem. Because she's I've been trying to tell him the exact same thing. I said, if there's anything that you're saying that is logical, that makes total sense, that is correct, and you need it to come out of my mouth, let me know what that is specifically. I'm happy to be the asshole.
Yeah.
And
also that can, but depending on how you're procured and everything, it is not I'm been on a kick for the last few days or last few weeks or whatever. I get really pissed off hearing people talk about just putting signs in yards and the house sells itself and it's just sells over a weekend. I would love it if, and I actually just posted about this yesterday. I got a house up in Quakertown under contract. I mean, I've been working with Scott since last September on that house, talking to him. I took 6-7 rides up there. I talked to him about the logistics of a dumpster. He was sending me pictures. He was sending me, well, should I do this? Should I do that? Getting him information on the township because it's septic, all these things. And it's these conversations, nobody really, because of confidentiality, we can't have a camera crew in these listing appointments. But I go into a divorce situation where the woman, where someone has to they're living together because they can't afford to be anywhere else. And like, who invited me in? Like, do they just pick someone randomly, or does somebody, and so like in a divorce situation or an estate situation where they like the kids find the realtor or one of the spouses finds the realtor, it can be like really dicey handling those conversations. So, going to the estate and the divorce side, obviously that's like the highest of kind of emotional levels, and more of the minefield than anything else. But
there's also on top of it, there are so many other logistical moving parts too that are just compiling on top of it, and so many other corners of it. Like you've got attorneys and you've got agreements that need to be made, and you've got more kind of like conflict and estates. You've got possibly multiple children who are trying to fight over money, and it gets added layers of complexity for sure. But all of these have emotional sides to them, and you got to make sure you are working with an agent that truly understands that. I was just writing up an email template for my other business professionals to be able to use to make connection with a referral, and I even added in there that it's important to work with an agent that has a high EQ and that can understand the emotional sides of this and be able to put that hat on. But also, if I'm working in an investment situation, be able to take that off, be able to read the room and understand the situation entirely. So.
Yeah, well, investors, you need EQ too, man, because there's big egos in that room. Woo, big egos.
Are there?
Yeah, sometimes. So, all right, well, let's wrap this up. But
we have the tools and the resources for all of these. So, and actually, something that I have started putting in the works because of this episode topic is putting on paper a check. We have seller's checklists. We have all the tools, whether you are buying and or selling, we have our processes and proprietary resources for you to be able to use, and are coming up with one that is geared a little bit more towards this specifically. So if you are in this frame of mind, if you are finding yourself in this situation, just reach out to us, talk. Yep. It's a conversation. A conversation is not a contractual obligation.
Yep.
It's a conversation.
That's right.
That's what we're here to do. So on that note, moving sucks. It's time we fix that. I get it.
Great job, Jen. Great job.
She got it.
You got it. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Bye.